Okay, so welcome back, and in this part of this video series we're going to have a look at how we can tidy up that basic structure that we created, add in some cool icons, and make a good looking website. So to find an icon to include, I've come to this website here, flaticon.com. It's got a huge range of different icons that you can use, and you can embed these freely in your web pages as long as you give the proper attribution, which we'll look at how to do. You can search up here for whatever you like, or you can start with some of these packs that they've got, for example, down here. So I'll just click on the Teamwork one for now, and it will bring up a whole set of icons that are designed in a similar style, so you know that they'll work well together. So I'll just choose a few random ones for now. If you hover over them, you can see you've got a few different options. If you click on this top option here, it adds it to a collection, and I'll click on that one. Let's choose this one as well, and that one there. And now up at the top right, you can see I've got this number 3. You can click on that, and it shows you all of your icons that you've selected. And I'm going to click on Download Collection. It gives you some different options for different file types. For now, I'm going to choose a PNG, and you can choose the size that you want. And so when we look back at our website, the width of these divs here, the widths are 300 pixels, so we can use that to help us decide the approximate size of the image that we want. And let's say I want to have it at 128 pixels. I'll choose free download, which means I have to credit the author, and it'll go ahead and download a zip file for me. I'm going to go and unzip that and get that ready to use in the next part of the video. Okay, so I've had a look into that folder that I downloaded, and I've got the 3 images there and this license file here. So if we open that up, just have a quick look at what it's saying. It's saying that we can use the icons for free, but we just need to give attribution to the designer. And for web, we need to place a link with the text in a visible spot. So what we'll do later on is put that link down in the footer, and we'll link to the author's name back to where we got these icons from. So I've got those 3 icons there, and they're in the images folder within the folder that I've got the HTML and the CSS files within. You can see it like that. That's our standard folder structure. So if I go back to my HTML now, and let's say within that first div that I've got, I'm going to put an image tag in between the heading and the paragraph text. So remember, that's IMG followed by SRC. If I type the equals, it should come up in brackets with that images folder, and I can choose which one I'm going to put in. So I'll put in bars for the first one and close that that tag there, and you can see that our image has come up in our live preview there. So I'll just pause the video and go through and finish the rest of them off. Okay, so I've put those images in now, and if you look closely here, you can see the green border that we put in earlier. The images actually go below that because of the size of the images that we started with and the pixel dimensions that we defined for that height of that div. So we can actually just delete that height out, and you can see that now the div will adjust to accommodate for the size of the content that's within it. So without that height option, they just adjust to the appropriate size. Okay, so the final few steps are just to tidy up the formatting that we've got here. I'm going to put a little bit of margin above and to the sides of these divs just to spread them out a little bit, and look at the border options that we have as well. So let's go into our column 3 class here and apply some margin options. Now remember, if we just have 2 numbers, the first one is the top and bottom margin, and the second one is left and right. So let's say I want to try maybe 20 pixels top and bottom, and let's put 40 pixels for left and right, and that just spreads the elements out a little bit on the page, and it's pushed it down a little bit from the top. I also want to put on a little rounded corner on these borders just to make it look a little bit different. It's a different style that I'm going to go for, so the property for that is border radius, and let's just try with say 15 pixels for now. I'm pretty happy with that. Of course you can experiment. If I change it to a much larger number, you see the effect that that has, but I'm going to leave it at 15 pixels for now. Okay, so it's starting to look pretty good now. I think I'm going to get rid of this border around the section because I don't need that there anymore. So I can just delete that property out. And our website's looking a little bit cleaner now with just those 3 divs in the middle. Next, I'm going to add a little drop shadow to those divs, similar to what we've done in the past. To find this website that I'm going to use, you can just search on Google for Material Design Drop Shadow. These drop shadows here follow the design guidelines for Google's material design, hence the name. You can see the different levels of drop shadow here. I'm just going to start with a small one, so perhaps this 3rd one here, and then on hover make it so it's a bigger drop shadow, so perhaps the 5th one there. So we can have a look through here. They've got these divs set up, and then in their CSS they've defined the styling for that. So let's say I wanted that 4th one, I could just copy, let's actually say the 3rd one. I'll copy that line of code there. Go back into my brackets file, and on the column div that I want to apply it to, I can paste that on. Okay, so now if we look closely on our live preview here, you can see that we've got our green border that we set up in this spot here, and we've got that slight drop shadow happening underneath. I'm actually going to change that back to black now, just so it looks a bit better with that drop shadow. Of course, you could change the color of the drop shadow to green as well, but now we've got a black border and a black drop shadow. The next step is to make it so if I hover over one of these divs, you get a slightly greater drop shadow effect. So just like with the tags that we've used in the past, so our anchor tags, we've done this too often, if you have the same name, so in this case the class name col3 hover, we can define some new rules for what we want to happen when we hover over those tags. So I've just jumped back into the same website we were on before, and instead of copying card 3, this time I'm going to copy the box shadow for card 5, which is this one down the bottom. You can see a much greater shadow. And if I go back into my code and just paste it in for the hover, and now I test it out when I hover over these divs, you can see it's working on all three of them perfectly. It's quite a jarring transition at this stage though, because it changes immediately, so we can add just one more property to this hover, which is a transition. And here we can just set the amount of time. So if I set it to say 2s, stands for 2 seconds, you'll see really clearly what happens because it's a really long time. It's a really slow transition. So that's probably a bit too long. If we change it to 0.5 of a second, you'll get a more appropriate type of hover effect going on there. Okay, so I'm going to leave this video there. We've had a look at a few different things, and of course this concept, as I've said before, you can totally tweak and customize as much as you like. You don't have to have these borders. You can make it look completely different if you have background images and so on. There's also some element of responsiveness to this. If we adjust the size of the window, these elements, because they're inline block elements, will automatically wrap around as appropriate. The last thing you might want to do is move this title into the middle here, which of course, because it's an H1 tag that we have, we can just put one more rule into our CSS, and if we go to H1 and we put text align to center, we should see that that's working now for our live preview. So now our title is centered and our 3 divs are centered within that page as well, and it all works well if we adjust the width of the page. So have a play around with that, tweak it, customize it, use your own images, your own text of course, and see what you can come up with.